Hi, I'm just out enjoying a beautiful Canadian summer. Today, we're going to talk about outdoor BDSM. So if you guys are like me and you enjoy playing outside from time to time, we're going to talk about a couple of things to keep in mind when you're doing outdoor BDSM play. One of the most important things about doing outdoor BDSM play is making sure that you have the privacy in order to do it. If you're going to do outdoor kink, please make sure that you are not somewhere where you're going to be found by the vanillas, and especially not where there's going to be kids playing or children around to see you. I really suggest that you either find some lovely private land, like where I am right now, or you find somewhere that is really quite remote, or that you join in on some of the outdoor kinky camp activities. We're going to talk a little more about kinky camp later on, but it's a great way to get your kink on outside. So if you decide to go to a kinky camp, they're all just a little bit different. We have a bunch of them here in Ontario where I am. There's usually a couple each year, and they will often have all kinds of different activities planned or play parties, different things with themes so that you can join in. They'll often have various vendor areas so you can buy some kink toys from local artisans, and you guys know I love to support local folks as far as toys and everything else goes. They'll also usually allow nudity or very skimpy outfits or BDSM wear. In fact, one of the ones that happens here in Ontario happens at a predominantly gay nudist group. They have a big RV site, and once a year they open it up to kinky people of all genders and orientations, and we take over and have a blast. Generally, public play is all right at kinky camp events. They're usually either taken over the whole campsite or at least isolated from the rest of them so that, it's not going to disturb other people. So outdoor play is usually A-okay there. Often they will also have all kinds of workshops or demos, different things for you to check out. And a feature that some of them have, not all, is a sub hunt. And that basically is what it sounds like. And it's also going to be the topic of our next video. So stay tuned if you're interested in hearing more about hunting for submissives. So there's a lot of things that you do need to keep in mind as far as safety goes. There are some obvious and less obvious things. One of the more obvious things is the sunshine, which I seem to have lost right now, and the sun's hiding behind the clouds. Even still, you want to make sure you're wearing sunscreen, especially if you're exposing parts of your body that normally would not be exposed to the sun. It's a little more susceptible to sunburn. Another issue is bugs and biting insects. There's all kinds of stuff out here, and especially if you get more into the woods or closer into some swampy land, there's all sorts of things that will bite you, and it's not fun, so make sure you've got some bug spray. You also really have to keep an eye out for poison ivy and poison oak or other plants that can, do a number on you. It's no fun to be in the middle of kink play and realize that you've just rolled over into a patch of poison ivy. Another thing that you need to look out for, and especially if you're playing overnight, is wildlife. Now there's the obvious things like bears, cougars, wolves, obviously depending on where you live. But there's also a lot of the smaller animals that can cause a problem. Skunks and porcupines, raccoons, they will get into anything that you leave out. They have a tendency of chewing on things, so make sure you're not leaving any toys out where it can be chewed on. When we're playing outside, we also need to be aware of the potential for injury. There's always a potential based on the play we're doing, but the environment can also cause injury. So obviously, cuts and scrapes are going to be the most obvious thing, but also keep in mind that if you are doing rougher play, if you're doing like tackle, takedown type play or ravishment style play, there's all kinds of different things that you could get injured by. So you could, land on a stick or, a rock, things like that. So be very, very cautious if you are doing rough play in the woods or even in a field like this. You never know what's hiding there. Another point is to, if you are going to do that type of play, where you chase somebody down, tackle them, take them down, we want to make sure that you scope the area out first, make sure that there's no gopher holes you could fall in, or sudden swampy areas where a person could slip in mud or get stuck. Just be aware of the environment and check for any potential hazards first. Also, if you are playing in a remote area, keep in mind that help is going to be a little ways away. So make sure you have a first aid kit, but also do your best to avoid any serious injury, because trust me, you do not want to try hiking out of the woods with a broken leg or anything like that. It's no fun. It's always a good idea to check and see if you actually have cell service, because if you do end up having to call 911, again, you don't want to have to hike out to civilization in order to do so. So check and make sure, see if you have cell service or not. Some carriers are certainly better than others. I have no service out here. Thankfully, my boy does have service, so it's okay. Something else to keep in mind is that if you are running through the fields or woods or anything like that, is to make sure that everybody is wearing appropriate footwear. Feet are very easy to get injured, especially if you step on something. You never know whether there's going to be a sharp rock or some broken glass, anything like that. If you're doing takedown style play, eye protection is really, really helpful as well. And I don't mean just sunglasses. I'm talking about make sure you have safety glasses on so that if you do trip and fall, you don't get a stick in the eye or something like that. Yet another thing to keep in mind is the time of year that you're doing this. You know, most of us are going to want to do outdoor play in the summer when it's warm, but not everybody is like me and loves the heat. So if you are playing at times of year when it is hunting season, make sure that you're aware of that, because you don't want any accidents happening there. Also be aware that some people put up deer cameras or things like that to track wildlife at that time of year. And if you're in an area that allows for trapping, then people can leave traps out, and if you're not aware, you stumble into one of those, you don't want to do that. I know at the time of filming, hunting season is opening in a little while, but probably by the time this goes up, it will be open in this area, so it's something to keep in mind. Finally, on our safety thing is a bit of safety that doesn't necessarily apply to us, but also to the environment that we're in. If you decide that you want to do any sort of tree bondage, which can be a lot of fun, we do need to take a few precautions. You want to make sure you find a tree that is mature enough to either hold the weight if you're doing suspension, or that it's not going to get damaged when it's early in its growth cycle. Another thing that I like to do is if you are looking at things like suspension, bondage, or somebody who's going to struggle a lot, is using tree straps in order to protect the tree. Because if we just use thin rope, it can bite into the bark of the tree and cause lasting damage to it. So by using tree straps, it spreads some of that pressure out a little bit. Of course, we also want to make sure that the branches, if we are doing that suspension bondage, are strong enough to hold the body weight. I tend to like to go a bit of overkill, so I would have both of us maybe try to hang from the branch and make sure that that's strong enough to hold two people. Then I know it should be okay to hold at least one person. Finally, check the tree for any signs of, termites or other bugs that may have both compromised the integrity of the tree, but also that may end up crawling all over your bottom, who is now tied to the tree. That can be very unpleasant. They could be biting insects, and you don't want to go there. Nobody's into insect play. And if you are, please do not comment on this video. I'm not interested. Thank you. So finally, let's talk about a couple of different ideas for outdoor play. If you're like, yeah, I want to do this, but I just don't know what to do. Things that are really popular for outdoor play include pony play, because you tend to need a bit more space. A lot of people that are really into it will have tracks set up and all kinds of really cool stuff. But any sort of pet play is certainly ideal for outdoors, or animal play in general. As I've talked about a couple of times in this video already, takedown play, ravishment play is great, especially if you have private land or you're a little more remote. You don't want people seeing it and getting the wrong idea. Humiliation play is yet another thing that can work really well. You can throw people in the dirt, make them roll around in the mud like a pig. You can do water sports outside, because at least the cleanup is a lot easier. You don't have to worry about the mess. You can have a bit of fun with predicament situations. Something that has always appealed to me, and I've never actually done it, is, you know, burying somebody up to their neck. Now, obviously, that's going to be really hard to do. I don't want to dig that kind of a hole. I'd probably make them dig it. But we also want to make sure that we're not putting a lot of weight on somebody's chest, because they will have a hard time breathing. So if you are going to bury somebody in the dirt, just dig a shallow grave and make sure they can breathe. Don't bury their head, please. Another great thing for outdoors, depending on the conditions, would be fire play. If you've got a nice calm day like this where there's not a lot of wind, fire play is great. If you do have a lot of wind, fire play can be very dangerous. So make sure that you take a look at the environment and make sure that it's suitable. You also want to make sure that it's not, you know, high risk of fires, in forest fires or anything like that. Most areas will give you the fire risk on a, you know, green to red scale, and so you know if it's safe in order to have open flame or not. Please don't, you know, burn down any more of the world. It's on fire enough right now. You can also do some water play. We've got a lovely pond here. So if you want to, you know, dunk somebody's head, obviously this is edge play. You do need to be very careful. I will point out as well that you do need to be careful of the water. Obviously, when we're talking about like drowning and things like that, don't mix bondage and water play at all. That is a terrible idea. But also, we need to make sure that the water is safe to go in. We've had a lot of big algae blooms in this area where there's so much algae it becomes toxic, and pets have died, people have gotten very sick. So make sure of that. Also, you want to make sure that the water is flowing water, it's not stagnant. Sometimes when you get to like a beaver pond and that, the water can be sitting still and all kinds of stuff will grow in it. So that's pretty much it, guys. Let me know what kind of outdoor play you like to do in the comments down below. Thank you very much for checking out this video. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up. And always have a rambunctious dog running around in your shot. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you later.